Hello and welcome to. Mm, we're gonna try that again. Hello and welcome to the living. Hmm, why can't I say that right? Hold on, let me get it right. I will get this right. I promise I will. All right, let's try number four. Take four. Hello. Hello and welcome to the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast with your host, Pastor B. My mission is to help you navigate and strengthen your walk with God 15 minutes at a time. I believe that real change happens between Sundays. So thank you for joining us for today's episode. Please be sure to take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, as well as follow and subscribe to the podcast. They are available everywhere where they may be found. So, on today's episode, I wanted to just introduce myself to those who are listening to me for the first time. You may not know who I am. So, my name is Brian Mitchell. I am the young adult pastor in Shreveport, Louisiana. The church that I attend and that I serve at is Greater Everywhere in Shreveport, Louisiana. My pastor is Pastor Keswick Durden, and I've been involved in ministry in some shape, form, or fashion for about 27 years, from praise and worship to Sunday school to folding chairs and pretty much any area of service in church. I've done it. So I have some history as far as serving in the church. Now, as you might imagine, with me being in church for so long, I am a church kid. I was raised in a church, and so I've experienced a lot. I've seen a lot, and it's these experiences that have taught me the value of having a relationship with God. And so, over the years, one thing I realized is that I fell in love with not only the church but Sunday mornings specifically. So growing up, Sundays was was the end all be all of my life, and without Sundays or without church on Sundays, rather, it was like I was like naked. I didn't have any identity. It was like a tire with no air, a car with no gas, right? It was the main source of fuel for my Christian walk, for my relationship with God. And so what I realized though is that I used church as the only connection to God. And so I wouldn't read the Bible as much. I wouldn't pray like I should. And if it wasn't going to church on Sunday, there were moments in my life where I didn't even talk to God the rest of the week. So obviously, that is a problem, right? It's bad whenever you only go to God when you need something, and that's kind of how I found my life growing up. Is I only really called on God when I was in trouble. Anytime that I couldn't figure out something, or I had got myself in a situation or a circumstance that was way beyond what I could do, that's when I called on Jesus. I pulled off my pulled out my prayer rag, dusted it off, and petitioned the Lord. Right. I treated God like we were it's like we were separated. We were like married but separated. Right. We didn't live in the same house. We had a relationship, but it was so divided that you really didn't know that I was completely sold out to God based on my daily walk, my daily. relationships, right? So I focused on having a weekend relationship with God versus a daily one. And so as I got older, I realized that living this way wasn't sustainable. It left me really empty, and I was on a cycle of failure, a cycle of disappointment, a cycle of shame, a cycle of um, just disgrace because I couldn't figure out why my life wasn't excelling the way that it needed to be. Now, mind you, I went to a church that told me all of the right things to do, right? Told me to pray, told me to read my word, told me to meditate and do all of these things. But for whatever reason, in my heart, my um, my mind was more focused on making sure that I checked the box of going to church on Sunday, and that was the bulk of my relationship. So the I realized that the trials and tests of life, they didn't go away just because I went to church, just because I sang in the choir, just because I taught Sunday school, just because I did all of the churchy things. That didn't solve all of my problems, right? And what I, of course, realize now is that I was fighting life without any power. I was fighting life without any vision and no real true purpose. And so it's my prayer with this particular podcast, with the experiences that I've had working and serving in ministry, and just being a everyday person, that I can share both insight from what God has given me, as well as just some testimonies and examples of the wrong mindset, right, and how to correct those things living in this world. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this this podcast, because I know that I'm not the only one that put way too much stock in Sunday morning, way too much stock in church attendance, and elevated that way above church devotion and daily devotion to God. Right? I understand now that this is a journey, and in order to really make progress in the journey and not feel like you're treading water, you have to give God more than a day. You have to give Him is a level of commitment and sacrifice that growing up I didn't understand, and sometimes I just wasn't even willing to give. So, because we all deal with struggles as a believer. Um, Growing up, I don't think my the examples in church, the elders and mothers and all of that, they didn't really show us the trials that they went through. Right? They presented a facade of perfection, a facade of a life absent of troubles, and they just hid all of that and tucked it to the side. But as you grow older and you have your own responsibilities, you have your own families, you realize that life is not as rosy as some people have made it out to be. And so, again, you need more than one day. You need a disciplined regimen of communication with God. And so I pray that this podcast can help each of us along this journey, because even though I've been in church for 27 years, I've been saved for about 25 of those, it still is a journey. It doesn't get easier, but it does. Life is more fulfilling when you have a relationship with God, because you know that He is solid and He's the one that's dependable. He's the one that you can always call on and reach out to, and you know that He'll be there. And so we'll talk about those things as well. Now, it's possible that there's somebody that's listening to this podcast that has been interested in becoming a believer in God, and but it seems like this a walk with God is much harder, or the people that you see living for God may not be the best examples. Well, the one thing you can expect to hear is stories and personal testimonies of successes and failures and moments of redemption where God has brought me back after making some horrible mistakes, after um, He's changed my mindset when it comes to certain areas of life and certain commitments that I thought I was making, and I really, really wasn't, right? And so, with all of these things, God has given me some tips and some solutions, I think, to some of the questions that we have as new believers, established believers, vets in the game, and even those who are skeptical. I believe God is going to help us along the way. And of course, we follow the Holy Spirit over here. We don't do things on our own accord. And we'll talk about that as we go along because, yeah, I've done that too. Right. So this podcast is going to consist of two 15-minute episodes per week. Tuesday and Thursday of each week. I This isn't the first podcast that I've had, but some of the previous ones I've had were more long form, 30, 45 hour long episodes. And my life is a little more busy, so I don't have time to crank out that much content all at once. For those who have a short attention span, this is for you. Please subscribe right now if you want to get your inspirational content in a short form, potent type of a way, because this is for you. So the episodes again are going to be on Tuesday and Thursday of each week. This first episode is airing on the 4th of April. And each week, like I said, you'll hear stories and we'll just kind of go through this journey of life together. So here's what I need for you to do. I need for you to make sure that first that you subscribe to this podcast. This podcast will be a video and audio podcast. So you're watching this right now on my YouTube page. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the podcast, and as well as make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you'll be alerted when a new episode is airing. All right. Now, of course, I've already told you Tuesday and Thursday is when you can expect to receive that notification. But, we all get busy. So make sure that you hit that bell so that you are reminded. This also is an audio podcast. So this podcast is going to be available everywhere where podcasts can be found. Spotify is the primary host. But if Spotify is not your thing, I promise you there are podcast hosts galore that you can find this podcast on. All right. And the other thing that I want you to do is that, especially if you're listening on Spotify, I will have Q&As as well as polls on the Spotcast feed of this. Spotify version of this podcast, so that I can make sure that the content that we produce for this podcast is relevant, right? Because we're all at different stages in our walk with God. And so what I wanted to ensure is that if there is something specific that you're dealing with, something specific that you want answers to, that the Lord is able to download some information that I can share that with you, right? Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't just listen to content for entertainment only. I'm a pretty comical dude. I'm not so straight laced, so there will certainly be some comical moments, but this is an assignment as well. So I want to make sure that that the Lord is ministering to you through this. So again, Spotify. Make sure that you follow me there at Sunday to Sunday Pod, and you will see some Q&As and see some other polls and things that we have planned. All right. So again, thank you so much for listening to this initial episode. I'm so excited about where we're going to go with this, and I do hope that until Thursday that you have a good week, and I'll see y'all then.